I don't think I can get a crazy viewership. Because after all, I've been saying over and over again this is all test. I've come to the realization that this is the real world that it was before. Whenever I could talk like this on YouTube and get a 60,000, uh, get like 60,000 views and have this viewership, which I did have from 2000 to 2010. Something disappeared between 2010 and now. And I can't imagine what happened. What happened in the universe? What changed where I was in the universe? But I knew I was sitting at my computer one day, and all of a sudden I tumbled to this idea, and then everything shifted. It was like I got sucked out of my body and thrown someplace else, and I knew something had disappeared instantly, or something had been taken away, or something had been swapped. And that's when I realized that I was no longer in the world that I thought it was, that I was born into. That was either dead or still alive and being placed in a certain position. And I think that's where I'm at now. And I've been that way for about 5 years. And what happens is you come to this realization that the world is not normal. You're the only normal person in the universe, and everybody else is crazy. And no matter what you try to do to communicate this to other people, they just don't understand that the world's crazy, and they're still trying to make it be sane. And then you come to the realization that it was like this all along to some extent, that you didn't realize how crazy. I mean, you didn't realize that you should have known it was crazy from the beginning. It's really bizarre. It's really really bizarre. So okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to hop out of, and to say that I'm crazy, and for me to just kick people's ass at this game makes it very difficult for people to say I'm crazy, but they'll still say I'm crazy, which makes me think that they're crazy. You see, for me to say really sane things, and then for people to turn around and say I'm crazy, they don't, and they're in a crazy world, makes me feel like there's something seriously perverted about this world, that people are unaware of just how crazy they are, and you feel like you're the only sane one here. You feel like the only sane person. Yeah. That I thought that if I ever got crazy, I'd be able to reason myself out of it. I think I'm at that point. I think I've reasoned myself out of it, and now I've reasoned to myself that the world is crazier than anything I can ever imagine. You know, that there are people out there that have lifestyles that completely ignore the fact that they can't make their lifestyles work. Their lifestyles don't work at all, and that the people around them deify them and shouldn't. So, man, TR is getting really bent out of shape. Look at that. I have never seen a map that screwed up in my entire life. Well, yeah, I did last night. And I told people it looked like Stephen Hawking fell on the floor. And then I said something cool like, I wonder if somebody's got a video of Stephen Hawking drooling. You know, I have a friend that was debilitated, that didn't have any profound ideas like Stephen Hawking, but I would say she was more graceful, and she went through. I mean, she didn't lose all of her control, but what happened to her was not a disease. What happened to her was somebody. It was as simple a problem as what happened to Michael Hashes. Somebody on the street pushes you over or hits you in the head, some stranger, and it just sends your entire world on its ear. You know, people have always had that I think this was something I saw in a in a film. A guy that did Muse with Sharon Stone. I think it was called Muse. I'm trying to remember his name. He makes a lot of these movies. And I think in that movie, or it may have been another movie, there was a character that um, was in the afterlife, and the person asked what happened. He says, "I fell backwards and died." You know, it can happen, and people always think, just imagine dying from falling backwards. Hitting your head, just hitting your head, dying from hitting your head, in just the right way, and not even hard, just a gentle concussion. It caused people to tear up. It might cause people to just laugh, to say, "Wow, what a crazy way to lose a life." You know, the people who have survived such things, you don't know how to treat them. I don't know how I treat Stephen Hawking because I think I had heard that he was atheist, and I could understand why he'd be atheist. I think I'd probably be atheist too if if what happened to him happened to me. I can understand that, but I don't think it's really a feeling you should have, because you don't know that maybe the reason why you went through that was because God saw a need in you to have that experience. That it would bring out it'd bring out something that would benefit the world, and that's your insight. But in light of that, he still, I guess, he demonified God, and it was the reason why he could not give um, anybody the capacity to have belief in God. And it would be very difficult, I think, for somebody to convince others who are God believing into stop believing in God, because they don't understand. People who are atheists and are determined to make everybody else atheist. Um, the good atheists are the ones that don't do that. Just as the good Christians are the ones that don't do that either. The ones that don't push their views on everybody. I'm so tired. And I've just lost the interest of what I was talking about. So it's let's see what happens. It's taking shape. Look at that. This is Hazen. What I would say to TR right now is push for the north, and secure a little more of this down here. Do not let either the VS or the NC take these bases. You need to create a thick stem on this tree that you're trying to grow here. And you need to be focusing about major cuts. Major cuts are things that you can take possession of, that will once you capture a base, then because of the mechanics of the game, they lose the capacity to be born into a court system. Oh fuck! I just lost my train of thought. I'm talking. I'm going crazy. You just heard me do it, and that's what happens when you're half asleep and half awake. But you've done that. I remember one time when I was a kid, and I was going to sleep, or no, I woke up, and I guess I had a wet dream or something, and I said, um, I said something like 2 times 3 is equal to Dolly Parton's tits. Was the equation I came up with, and I woke up and I was just like, how did that make sense in my dream? You know, it was something of that nature. But but that inspires art too. And there are artists, they'll wake up and they'll say, "Wow, what a profound idea that to use to equate sex with numbers," and then they would create a painting based on that. And then somebody else would say, "What a profound idea," and then they buy the painting and they say, "Yeah, I had that idea waking from a dream." You know. What I should do is I should go ahead and let myself say crazy shit half awake. And that would be another form of something to listen to. Okay. So what are we going to do? Wow, it's 100. And I didn't help this one way or another. But I then again, oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I feel so sorry for you, TR. Oh my goodness. And you see what our faction's doing. I don't think I really want to help this at all. It feels so sad for these guys. Because, yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know if I want to help this. Or hurt it. I mean, I'm not sure that's going to hurt it. But I don't know if I want to help this at all. These are some people having a hard night. You know what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to help to absorb some of this TR land that they're not going to get back anyhow. So I'm going to go down to Nason's that isn't being touched, and I'm just going to try to get that that land because I need the resources to buy discounts. So I'm trying to make something good out of it, you know. So go over there and get some, either just to capture the flags. It would be nice to have the resource, but to capture the flags, I need to go down and get that done. Because TR is not going to get access to it. And there's nobody in the hex either. It's kind of just screaming to me, come over, Kieran, get some of this. That's my name, by the way. And yes, I am very attracted to Kiernan Shipka, the girl who has my own name. Wouldn't it be funny to be married to somebody that young and both of us have the same first name? We'd be called Kiernan and Kiernan. I don't know if she would ever marry me, but you know, if it was her consent, I would consent to it because I'm attracted to her. There are a lot of people in the universe that say you can't possibly imagine ever marrying somebody that's so young compared to your age. And I would say to that person, I'd say, fuck you. I would. I don't see anything wrong with it. She's at the age where she could have sex. I would give her that option. I would let her have that capacity, you know, because I would want it too. And maybe someday it ends up being such. Or maybe it's just in my own mind that such a thing could happen. But I don't have any problem with thinking such things. We're all sexual beings. It's not like I'm having sex with a 13-year-old or anything like that. But as I said, the world's crazy. And I don't think it's crazy. I don't think God puts it beyond people to have such relationships. To have such age difference relationships. And by that way, that's what it's called in porn. It's called age difference sex. Is where you have like the 60-year-old man having sex with a 20-year-old. It looks perverse. It isn't perverse. I think more perverse is to have sex with a step sibling. But even to be in a marriage that's a result of divorce would be kind of unnatural too. But I've that experience as well. So not of me, but of my parents. My stepfather, who is a preacher, and I being married into a family of people that I knew as being people I went to church with. It's a really bizarre, and it's probably the reason why. It's probably the reason why I probably the reason why I have this experience at all. It was probably God given. It was probably something that was required to be the person that I am today. And there are people there, they're going to demonify me and say that I'm like a pedophile or something. And the thing you don't understand is the world is more perverted than they can even imagine. And that I'm probably the only sane person here. And the people in a world to demonify people that are sane, such as Jesus. You know, because that's what happened. The world despised him, and how that came to be. It's kind of like God being in a world that God knows is screwed up, and trying and wanting to have that relationship with us. Just as I would like to have a relationship with Kiernan Shipka. A desire to have that relationship. Even as crazy as that sounds. God wanting to have a relationship with dirty beings that he created. If there was other gods, they would probably think that is kind of crazy. There's probably gods of people's minds that would think such things is crazy. And there's the reason why they can't even fathom a God wanting to have a relationship with such broken individuals as ourselves. And God does, because God sees God's self in us. God can identify. And God can have that relationship through one that satisfied God, and that was Jesus. And the only way that, and I think the whole point of that was that the only way that you could satisfy God is to do everything God wanted you to do. And that was, I guess, the catharsis that God needed in order to get the relief, is to say at least one could do it, but this is the only one that could have done it, and it was me. It was me in human form that did it. I led myself through it. I came to experience what it was to be human, to identify with being human, to see that it wasn't as easy as it looked, but that I led myself through it. Now I can identify with you, because I don't see myself as the creator, but I see myself as the creator of the creation and the creation of myself. I think that's what he was doing. I think that's what God was doing, was to see it from our position. And God asks us to do the same. I'm not saying that God was so imperfect as to not see that, but maybe we needed to know that God would do that for us, would go through that, just to express that God knows what it's like to be where we're at. So, and there was a human side to Jesus that pleaded with God not to let him go on the cross. And we don't understand what being on the cross means. We don't understand the social stress of that. Not just the pain of it, but just what it means in that culture to be crucified. Only people who were criminal minorities got put on crosses. Roman citizens didn't get put on crosses unless they committed treason. So the Jews were considered less than Roman citizens. Is like Jesus would be able to identify more with black slaves of America than to identify with the Americans that have migrated here or even had slaves. See, because there was a time when The black slaves were not given the capacity to have the freedoms that everybody else had. So whenever black people say that Jesus was probably black, I said certainly yes, Jesus was black. He was black in a sense. He was black in the sense that he was despised by and was put at a level that was subhuman. And he was innocent. He was God too. And nobody could see that. Not even the Jews would have laid it. The only reason why the Jews were seeing Hosanna some is they had read through the Torah that there was one coming that was going to bring about an order to things. And they thought the order was in their mind what the order was, and that was a new kingdom in which they would be elated as a people, brought to a new level. And that wasn't the idea at all. I think the whole Jewish identity, I think all of that was just to say that God would, even if God tried to make it work for one race, it's not going to happen. It's got to happen for everybody. And that not one race, not one people, not people that were trained to do it could ever satisfy God. And God went through to exemplify all that stuff, to show all the many ways that it could go wrong and right, but never to really go right. And there was only one way that it could ever be fixed, that it could ever go correct. And it was like God brought himself down and made himself, or made Jesus into a lamb, a sacrificial lamb, to fit into the Jewish identity of what having a covenant with God was, to take of an innocent person their blood and use that to permit God to identify with being human, to being with humans and being on their level, which is what humans desire. It is what God desires too. But there are people in the world that don't think that's even possible, to ever be on a level with God. And there are people that will not even give God the capacity to be. Look, I want it. So miracles do happen. I just, without really trying to, I just capped Nason's in Hazen, which only usually happens whenever a large outfit takes it. I just took it. So I think that's a good point at which to do a clip to say